Welcome, everybody. I'm excited to have Nick here on the podcast. Welcome, man. You are one of the highest energy people I've ever met. I'm excited. This is going to be a good one. Maybe we'll keep it weird. Maybe we won't. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah,
But appreciate you being here, man.
yeah, absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's start out with just a little bit of background. Don't have to go too crazy, but who are you? How are you related to the real estate investing space? How did you get here? Let's start there. And then I just warn you, I do sometimes interrupt if I have
Please.
like specific questions. So it may cut you off, but it's only for good intentions to understand.
I always
So
joke and I say the only way to get a word in around me is to interrupt anyways. So
there you go. Perfect.
and it's true. Um, but so yeah, so I'm Nicholas Nick. I founded leadminingpros.com. Super fortunate. I founded them about 6 years ago. We are an all-inclusive lead generation company, which means we can really do it all. You know, we do actually do it all, but PPC, ironically, which is how we met. A potential team up, and so we pull the list. We can skip trace it. We can cold call it. We can text message it. We have a CRM. We have lead managers. My goal isn't to offer a lot of things, but to offer things that people actually need. And I also don't tell my clients how to use them. They can do whatever they want with our services. So it's really cool. We also have no contracts, no commitments, and that's kept us really popular. We have no setup fees, so people can come and go as they please. I started in the restaurant industry. I used to work for an education company for 3 years. I started off as like an event coordinator, executive assistant kind of thing. And then I ended up climbing the ranks. Within 9 months. I became an executive overseeing the entire fulfillment department.
So is this at the restaurant or is this at the education?
This is after the restaurant at the education company, for real estate. So I did restaurants for 13 years, left that, jumped into the arena of education by accident. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just leaving the restaurant industry, at the time is what I was doing. And I was thankful that anyone that, they weren't handing me a spatula when they were hiring me. So I was super thankful. And then, I volleyed those 3 years of being the director of fulfillment into what I would argue to be, one of the nation's top lead generation cold calling companies out there. We're so unique because we do it all, and by do it all, I don't mean all the forms of lead gen, but I mean, we pull the list, we skip it, we call it, and we text it. And, if you're piecing, people are probably watching that are doing these things. And if you're piecing all that together, there can be a lot of moving parts. Right. So we really solve a big need in this space. And it's been a great experience. 6 years in, I used to make $65,000 a year and work 70 hours a week. Now I probably work 70 hours a month. And in October, we did $120,000 in sales that month. So definitely a good flipped perspective,
That is awesome. Yeah, I have a lot of questions and I do want to dive deep into cold calling. Cold calling is something I've never been, I'll be honest with you, I've never been a huge fan of myself. So maybe you can change my mind here. Okay. I'm obviously on the other end of the spectrum doing Google ads, completely different digital, right? So it could be a good partnership for sure. And I do want to dive into it, but I first want to back up a little bit into your kind of earlier days. How did you go from working at a restaurant to end up in a real estate education company? Sounds completely unrelated.
And it was, I walked out of my restaurant career. I worked there for 13 years.
So were you a chef or what were you?
I was a manager, at the time I was probably an area manager and didn't realize it. Like looking back, they were having me go around to all the stores and report back. But, at the time there's so much politics and manipulation. Looking back, I was like, God, was I like an area director for them? And they just like tricked me into it that's one of the, and it's like, because they did, I was so good at my operations. Operationally, I mean, you want me running your restaurant. I was so good. My employees were happy. My customers were happy. My bosses were happy. My profits were good. And restaurants' profits suck, for the record. Anyone out there, it's not the move. Do not open up a restaurant unless you're so wealthy that you need to lose money to avoid paying taxes. That's my
interesting. So what is the profit margin for a restaurant?
Dude, I mean, like if you ask me, it's like negative 5%. Okay. So I ran IHOPs for 5 years. Now I ran the second busiest IHOP in the country. So they are definitely an outlier. And they only sell eggs. When was this?
Where? What part of
Orlando, right outside.
Makes sense.
Right outside of Disney. Okay. And now they were super busy, but they only sell eggs. Okay. Eggs are very profitable, right? I mean, how much is a fucking egg? Right. And then, they're selling it for $6, $5, whatever. So that store, second busiest restaurant in the country, was like 35% profit. Okay. So best case scenario, amazing margins, systems that have been around for 70 years. That's what IHOP is, just to let everyone know. So, and in their busiest restaurant. Well, you're rarely working in your restaurant's busiest restaurant, right? Very often as you're working in restaurants, you feel like that toddler that's always on the losing team when you play sports growing up. You're like,
yeah,
is our team always last, or is it just me? And that's actually what it feels like working in restaurants. But the average profit margin, honestly, is like 5 to 10%. And that's honestly, it's 10% if you're killing it. Like if you're doing everything right, it's 10%. Your managers aren't stealing. Your employees are ringing in the right orders. Your cooks aren't wasting all the food. So I've always said, now that I wasn't rich back then because I was an employee, but now that I am, I look back, I see restaurants are amazing write-offs. Okay. I think I see the bigger picture a little better. If I was worth $10 million, I would open up a restaurant in my hometown. I would make it really affordable, and I would treat it like a community station, right? More so than anything, that we just serve good food. It literally wouldn't be for profit, because I feel like a restaurant for profit would just be too hard to maintain, but it'd be for notoriety. It'd be for, I bring all my friends there, we'd have delicious food. So that would be like my vision, and being where I am now, my current business, we're like 70% profit, 65% profit. Okay. So like, it really never makes sense for me to open up a restaurant for profit, considering I have greater profit margins elsewhere, right? I think the word is, there's a better vehicle to wealth, right? I feel like get rich doing something else, then open up restaurants. Don't own a restaurant on the path to wealth.
That's really interesting. I've always dreamed of, I think it would be cool to open up a restaurant. So if a restaurant is bringing in $1 million a year, the owner's taking home 50 grand, right? Something like that. I mean, that's pretty insane. Dude, and it's so stressful by working so much.
And that's the other thing. The phone's ringing, the air conditioner breaks, the Sally called out, I actually miss it. I really do. I thrive off of problems, and man, let me tell you, it's like that shit was made for me. I tried to leave the restaurant industry for 1 year, and I had 9 jobs that year. Okay. Like that's how, but every time I was in it, I had the job for 4 years, because like there's so much dynamicness to working in restaurants, right? I have to wear so many hats. So like my ADHD was on fire. I used to say they make us work 12 hours because it feels like 8.
Interesting. So did you mainly get out of it just because the money to effort wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, that was the first tripwire. The next tripwire, and I think a lot of your listeners, if they have jobs, might really resonate with this, was the next tripwire was all my bosses were miserable assholes. Right? And I'm like, I don't want to be you. I don't want to be you. Like, what the fuck am I doing here? And I came up with a saying, and that was, I ran out of role models. And that's exactly what happened. There was no one for me to look up to. I'm making $65,000 a year. I'm working 70 hours a week. And it was wild. And why I quit, the reason I quit was they scheduled me 90 hours a week for 6 weeks. And I was salary. Honestly, if I was hourly, I'd be like, fuck yeah, dude, let's go. Okay. But I'm not. I'm salary. So guess what? My pay stays the same. And then I looked at the schedule and I was the only one scheduled 6 days a week after being with this company for 5 years.
Not treating you right.
And then they were a new restaurant. And then the manager goes, you got to prove yourself to these managers. And I was like, what did you just say to me? Like, I've been with this company for 5 years. Every manager in the building, their honest to God tenure didn't add up to the 5 years that I'd been with the company. And I was like, I don't have to prove myself to anybody. And if I could be honest with you and everyone watching, is I didn't know this was possible, but I had severe stomach pain, severe. And I had no idea what it was. And it was getting worse and worse and worse as months went on. I thought indigestion, okay, diet, I don't know what's going on. And the day I walked out of this job, my pain left and it never came back. The day dude, before that day, if you would have ever told me that stress could cause physical pain, I would call you a fucking liar. Before that day.
Wow.
Yeah. And I literally have goosebumps right now. Like, the reason I walked out is because I was like, fuck it, I'm going to the hospital. Literally, just so you know, that was like my walk out. Fuck it, fuck you, 90 hours a week, excuse all the language. But you know, I'm leaving, I'm going to the hospital. If you want to stop me, that's on you. And I leave and I didn't go to the hospital. I went home. They really tried to get me back. And then I sued them as well. I didn't win, but you know, I was being discriminated against. When you're the only person working 6 days, that is against the law. I mean, I spent 6 years upholding these laws.
Right.
You know? It's
Right.
like, you know, and to be honest with you, I didn't care about winning. I cared about stressing them out as much as I could after being gone. Like, you know what, you guys stressed me out. I'm getting stomach ulcers and stuff. You know, I'm going to go ahead and return the favor. But yeah, so, and then that's basically the leap. So all that happened. And I sat unemployed for 9 weeks and I applied to every job I thought I could do that wasn't a restaurant job. I was like, fuck it. And I came across this post on Craigslist that was really weird. That was like, put the word carrot in the subject line when you email us. Jump through all these hoops. Da, 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 da. And I was like, oh, whatever, dude, bam. And I replied to it. And they were like, you were the only person
who actually followed the instructions.
Who actually followed the thing. And then they met me, they chat with me, they loved me. I didn't hear from them for 2 weeks. I'm unemployed. I'm nearing week 7, 8, and 9 being unemployed. And I was working 70 hours a week. So unemployment doesn't sit well with me. I'm like ready to go, dude. I'm like, what problem can I tackle? And then I've never followed up in my life for a job position. True story, ever. And I was like, you know what? Hey, I write an email. Hey guys, I never do this, but you know, I think things went so well. What happened?
Right.
And she said, oh my God, I totally forgot. Can you start tomorrow? And I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. And they were so in the weeds.
That's so
yeah, they
random.
forgot about me. Dude, they were so in the weeds when they hired me that I was still working 70 hours a week. So I thought I was taking a pay cut going down to $18 an hour, but I was still working 70 hours a week, which is cool with me. I'm not complaining. I'm used to it, you know, but I'm hourly for the first time in my life. My paychecks were bigger than they were in the restaurant industry. And I was in a brand new career. And what I was doing was, I didn't know what was going on. They're like, hey, we're throwing events. I'm like, for what? They're like, for real estate. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? I've been flipping burgers for 13 years. I have no idea what well, we teach people how to invest. What's investing in real estate even mean? Dude, I worked there for 3 months before I even knew what this company did. And I was just helping them pull all the levers. And then I was like, wow, we sell people's experience to other people to teach them how to sell real estate. You know, it's very
so can
interesting.
you break it down for me if you could? Like what, I guess, is it selling, wholesaling, or flipping houses, or subject to, or like what was the actual?
So their deliverable before I got there was mostly a direct mail coaching business, right? This was 9 years ago in their defense. Okay. So it was mainly direct mail coaching. And the thing that innovated me towards lead mining and solved one of their problems is direct mail was stopping working. All right. And they were teaching it and it was expensive, right? So people come in, they pay you to coach, and then you tell them to spend $3,000 more with this direct mail company to send this stuff out to this list, and that adds up, So some of the people, they'd spend the money, and then they'd get crappy results. I had a girl call me crying one day. She's actually the reason I created lead mining. And I told her, she actually just called me 6 years later, like 2 months ago. And I was like, dude, like you're a big inspiration to me. She called me crying, and she just did a $3,000 direct mail campaign, and her phone didn't even ring. And it just like,
I've been there. It hurts.
Yeah. Oh my God. And that's like, and she just paid us too, and she's like, Nick, I don't have anything. I don't like, there's not that much money left. There's not that much this left. Like, I don't have a lot of attitude left, and, if we look at that investment into what we do at Lead Mining Pros, right? Or for example, how far does that go? Even I bet what you do, what does $3,000 in PPC do? And it's like, depending on the market, I'm sure, but it's like, it's a big difference. And, when what direct mail is, and I'm not knocking it, but it is a skill-less game. Okay. And by that, I mean, is you don't need skill to go to the direct mail company and get a list and click send. And you don't really learn anything, right? So the thing about cold calling that I loved is it was rich with experience. I was learning how to call people. I was learning how to communicate with them. And I started teaching this to our students. I said, hey, you know what's free? This guy's free. You already got the list, right? Get it skip traced.
Right.
For 10 cents per search or whatever, my competitors are charging 20 cents per search, whatever, and get that done. And then just call them yourself. It's like nearly completely free. So we started teaching a cold calling heavy approach. And the beauty of cold calling is it was free. So at least they couldn't complain about the pocketbook experience anymore. They may have said things like, I didn't pay you to teach me how to cold call. And it's like, look, this is just a part of the journey, right? It's like, I'm not saying you're going to cold call forever, but get the conversation down. And that's actually where I started. So, my take in real estate was calling 300 to 600 people a day for 3 months. And you literally see yourself grow from a potted soil to a plant.
Was that starting your business? Was that where all those calls were, trying to sign up clients for your cold calling business?
Well, I wasn't, actually my cold calling business started. So what happened was I created this great system over here. We pivot to cold calling.
Oh, at the education company, you helped them pivot from direct mail to cold calling.
Right, exactly. We made this whole pivot. And back then I didn't even know it. I'm just solving a problem as an employee. I'm just an executive. Yeah. I'm like, we got a problem. This shit's expensive. I found something that's free, boss. Let's give it to them. It was as simple as that. So then I saw it working for everyone. So when my time came to an end at that company, which all of our times do, when our time came to an end at that company, I was like, I'm going to go home and cold call, man. I saw it work for all these people, dude. It's going to work for me. At this time, I've never cold called. I'd only just shifted people onto cold calling, right? I'd never picked up the phone myself. And I made my first, and I actually recorded it. I have them all recorded because this is how crazy I am about performance. I sat on Zoom every day by myself and cold called 300 to 600 people a day. And I recorded myself. And every night after it was too late to call, I would watch the video back and edit it. And I would clip each individual call out of it. And that process, dude, first of all, that was painful to watch yourself suck at something that you suck so bad at. Like my first month ever, like I didn't even know, like I could play one, but I didn't even know what I was saying back then. It was like, I had a bad script. I mean, it was all ugly. It's probably the perfect marketing story, to be honest with you, but it was so ugly and I was still doing good. And so my first month, I had 75 leads my first month, and I was fucking horrible. And with my extreme restaurant background, I mean, I taught people that didn't even speak English how to work at restaurants, right? So I knew immediately, wow, if I suck that bad and did this good, I can scale this. That was literally my first thought. So we turned those 75 leads into 7 contracts. Out of those 7 contracts, none of them closed. I wasn't the closer, I was the lead generator. So when none of them closed, I was like, well, this isn't working. Okay. And then a guy called me and asked me if he could buy my real estate or my cold. He said, hey, I see you're cold calling. Could you call for me? And then I had 3 people call me up and say, hey, could you call for me? And I was just, it was all organic back then. I was just on Facebook telling people what I was doing.
And eventually it became a business.
Right. Yeah. And then before I knew it, I was like, and now, I mean, we're going to do $900,000 in sales this year. And I have a very low marketing budget. I think I maybe spent $8,000 on Facebook ads or on marketing this year. So
yeah, because you're probably doing, I'm assuming you're doing cold calling to get people to sign up for your cold
No,
calling
we
agency,
don't.
right? It's just all
We
organic.
don't just, yeah. Well, you know, I'd hate to say we're
Networking.
organic after 6 years, but after 6 years and a lot of marketing we've done in the past, we are more organic is probably,
Gotcha.
you know, the best way. But yeah, we don't cold call. I have no outbound lead gen source other than maybe a podcast, just like this, you know.
Gotcha.
But that's it, you know, and I'm super thankful for that, you know.
I would love to, I do. Okay. I know we got like 30 minutes here. So I'm in my head, I'm like, okay, what is the best use of time? Because there's so much.
I can throw some time on. So no worries.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I want to backtrack a little bit. I do want to dive into the cold calling, how it works, even for my own education. I do want to dive in your agency, but I want to backtrack a little bit. I'm curious because you have a unique position working in this real estate education company. We don't have to say who it is. But you know, I've always been skeptical. I've talked to some other people on my podcast as well of like, there's been some, I don't know if it's like shady is the right word, but kind of weird sales practices that go on in terms of,
Right.
I don't know your experience with in this certain company. Some companies are better than others, but I'm curious on your take on if you notice like anything in terms of how they sell courses or anything like that.
You know, so I'm working with a friend right now to help me improve my website. I'll tell you this really unique story and then I'll answer your question. So I think we get carried away with sales. I think we get too addicted to the sale and not addicted enough to the result. And, you know, if you go to my website, dude, there is like fucking no sales copy. I think there's like 5 sentences on my website that isn't a product. Like that's it. Everything else.
Products.
Like we do have a lot of products.
Yeah,
but you know, but they're so black and white.
Right.
You know, I don't need like a landing page to convince you make 100,000 more in January with my, you know, so me personally, I am anti that boastful marketing style, right? I'm anti selling the dream is really the best way to win it. And that is what we see a lot with these companies. And, you know, there's just a bunch of tactics. Let's see if you qualify. Send them a bank statement of you with $30,000 in your bank account and you qualify. Okay. You know, send them a credit card with a $30,000 limit and you qualify, right? Trust me, you qualify. All right.
Everybody qualifies.
Everyone qualifies. And I'm not knocking anybody for saying that, but we have to beware of the magic that happens. Marketing is more like magic right now. And we hear things and, you know, they may give us testimonials that show us that they close a deal in 30 days and stuff. So you're going to make your money back, you know. I think, so my role was I was the director of fulfillment. So right after the sales guy sold you, it was my job to call you. It was actually my job. And I was like, I'm going to call these people literally the same day.
Like
so
an onboarding thing?
What?
Yeah. Like onboarding. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I call, bam, hey, what's up? Hey, this is Nicholas. Nick, how's it going? Awesome. So you just got off the phone with Reggie. So welcome aboard. We're so glad to have you. So first, I want to talk about real estate investing. You know, the road to entrepreneurship can be very frustrating, okay? So we want to be prepared for that, all right? Because once we know it's frustrating, it's already a little less frustrating. All right. So let's just be prepared. There's going to be hiccups, you know, stuff like that, you know, and then I talk a little bit. And so here's what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks for you. Okay, great. All right. And then, you know, some people that were really excited.
That sounded good, by the way. That's not you got that was good. I'm
Yeah,
like,
thank
man,
you,
I
bro.
want to be in this program.
Dude, I did hundreds of that, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like, but I'm also resetting the expectation because the
Right.
sales guy's like, easy, easy, easy. And I get it. It's his job. I get it. I get it. Okay. but, you know, it's like, but I felt like, you know, sometimes we could have done more, but you know, what I would do is I took on the responsibility. I'm not going to change the sales guy. He's feeding his family. He's doing his thing. Right. So I then adapted.
So is it all commission based, like with the sales guy, I guess? Is it all straight commission?
Yeah.
Kind of
100%. I think it was like 10% of the sale is what they got. That's a lot of incentivization. You know,
I've heard that some companies, I don't know if this has been your experience or not, but the way, like, there actually is no set price, and that the way they determine the price is based on what the person can afford. So you're actually charging the same product,
right?
Different amounts of money to different people.
So that, you know, that's why people love. So for example, we put our prices on the website, and everyone's like, I can't believe you put your prices on the website.
We do too.
It's like,
we do too.
Yeah, which is awesome. And it's like, well, that's the first indicator that they might be different for everybody, right? Or maybe it's high ticket. Now, one thing my company did, which is the more integrity approach, they had several different tiers, but they wouldn't necessarily tell the client about it. Okay. So the client didn't know there was a bigger tier, right? Which means that they were sold whatever that person thought they could afford, right? Now, if we realized they had 5 options, what would they have done? I don't know. Who knows what they would have done, right?
You wouldn't let them know there was a cheaper option if they had,
right.
let's say 30 grand
or even a more expensive one, just so you know what I mean? I was like, hey, this is the program, you know? And so I think that's definitely more integrity than what you said. But, and I didn't even know that at first. But I wanted to bring everyone together. I'm like, let's bring them all together. And at first they were like, I don't know if we should do that. And I was like, why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we do that? But then I realized probably why they didn't want to do that. And it's because this person got this and this person got that and this person got this. And not that that's a problem, but when you don't know that, oh, what was that? I didn't even know they had that, you know? But you know, it all ended up being okay. You know, I ended up bringing everyone together, and like, no one cares, you know, everyone's happy with where they are. Or, you know, real estate investing. One thing I will say is the people that made it in real estate investing in these coaching programs probably would have made it without the coaching program, right? And what I mean by that is that it's something in you. Like, you're either going to work your ass off and change your life, or you're not, period. You know, if I see all the time, buy this course and that course and this course and that course, and now I'm doing Grant Cardone and now I'm doing this. Like, look, just stop it. Okay. If you're trying to make money, why the fuck are you spending so much of it taking courses on the same damn topics? You know, at least change the topic a little bit, you know? And so it's like, I see people get into that education rut, you know, and they get confused the same way that boomers, no offense to any boomers, but that boomers may think that watching the news is like being an activist. Okay. I understand watching education feels like I'm taking action. You're not. Okay.
So okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm actually filming a course right now, and I'm creating.
You're creating a course. You just tell people not to get courses.
well, no, it depends, right? There's a difference between like education and, you know, what it might be, you know, but my course, to be clear, is really a definitions and expectations course, you know? So this one that I'm making this particular course. I'm making 5 of them and I'm bundling them all together. This particular one's called Foundations and Expectations. And I'm actually beating up like wholesalers a little bit like in this. And not that I'm beating them up, but I'm like, this isn't a slot machine. You don't pull a lever and cash comes pouring out, right? It's like, you gotta be, there's going to be problems. There's going to be issues. It's going to get ugly, and we got to get out of this dream, because when you're in a fantasy and you're in a dream and the one side time thing gets ugly, you're out, you're done, because you thought it was going to be easy. And now you think you're not prepared and now you're not ready. And so like, I'm making this course now, and I just filmed it today, but it's like, I'm really focusing on expectations. And my buddy's filming. He's like, Jesus, Nick, you're really kind of going in on these people. And I'm like, I'm trying to paint the ugliest picture. So when their first lead they ever get is like fucking with them or being disrespectful, that their whole world doesn't fall apart.
They're ready. They have the resistance, the grit to get through it.
Right. And it's like, if they can finish this course of me yelling at them, then they are ready.
I love that. I share the same sentiment and the same philosophy. And people say to me like, hey, Tim, maybe you're like a little too negative and a little pessimistic. But to me, I think if people can like really understand the challenges of the business, whether you're flipping or wholesaling or whatever, right, if you can accept it and still keep going, you're actually more empowered than if someone's telling you, hey, everything's going to be easy. Because then when push comes to shove and it's not, you kind of don't have any legs to stand on. So I love what you're doing, and I 100% agree with that.
Well, and then to let you know, like, I've literally just decided to create, I'm doing something unique, and it might sound ironic, but I'm going to teach you like the difference. Like, I'm actually launching a high ticket program. And instead of like, I don't want to call it coaching, because you're literally going to walk away with tangible results. So like, for example, there's going to be, what the coaching program is going to include, a big lead generation package in it. Like, you might think about what I'm saying, because it's a really cool way to set your clients up for success and give them stuff. So check this out. I'm going to sell it, and they're going to get me, and I'm going to personally set up with them. Okay, you're going to start cold calling. So what are you going to say when a lead calls, when a lead comes in? What are you going to do when you get a text message? What are you going to do when you get a property under contract? What are you going to do when you get a buyer to sign the contract? Like, we're literally going to bring, like, you're not going to have any questions about the process, because here's what happens. People hire my service and all this magical stuff starts to happen and they aren't ready. And then they're like, oh my goodness, what happened here? So I'm creating something that I really feel like we're giving them tangibles. You're going to know the markets you're investing in, the list you're pursuing, your offloading strategies. You're going to know what you're going to do when you get it under contract. You're going to have all your scripts ready in your hand and ready to go. And on top of that, I'm going to give them. And then once they literally say, okay, Nick, I'm ready, like a fucking samurai sensei, I'm going to then give them not free lead gen, because it's included in the price, but I'm going to then give them lead gen. Great. You're ready now. You know what to do. You know what to expect, right? And what it is it's like, it's kind of like hand holding, but it's also like really respecting how special this is, So when I say all that, I'm talking to my friend today, and he's talking about creating all the sales copy to sell it. And I was like, bro, that's the difference. I only want people buying this who knows what it's worth. I don't want to convince anyone to buy this, right? Like, I really don't. I want them to see or go, oh, this is what I need. I don't want them to be like, oh, wow, this is going to do this for me and that for me, and have all this compelling sales copy.
False expectations.
Right. It's literally so direct. And it's like, I want it. And I was explaining to him, I want it to be direct, because I don't want anyone to feel like I coerce them in any way into buying this. This is a solution to a greater problem, So I feel like that's one of the main differentiators, right? Is, marketing and coercion, that's a fine line. I'm not saying anyone's doing that wrong. However, I think when people go to my site, that they really go, this is very direct. Like, I'm not confused about what you're doing. They may have questions about my process, but they're not confused about what I'm doing. you know?
Interesting. Yeah. And I mean, you have a very unique perspective because you've seen the back operations of like successful coaching programs. You can take things that worked really well and then leave things that you didn't like about it. I'm curious. And I've also launched, it's not a high ticket coaching program. It's like super low ticket, and it doesn't come with any lead gen and stuff like that. And the model you're doing is really good. It reminds me of Alex Hermosi. You know Alex Hermosi? He's like,
Yeah.
the Gym Launch program. Sounds like kind of a similar thing where like, we'll give you the lead gen, but we'll teach you how to actually make money with the leads. Right.
Right.
And that's
I love that you correlated that, because I didn't, but that is,
similar, right?
yeah, it's similar. And it goes to show what a great idea it is, and it's like, I just want them set up for success. And I feel like this woman signed up yesterday. We started today. Her phone rings 9 times. She gets 9 phone calls. She calls up and asks for a refund because she got 9 phone calls to her cell phone. And I was like, so do you not want your phone to ring? Do you not want leads? Like, I'm so confused about what you wanted. And I said, ma'am, you're not getting a refund for those reasons. I'm sorry, us doing our job and you thinking that I'm a slot machine, we're going to finish our workout and I'll even give you some extra work. But, I'm like that. That's just buyer's remorse, I guess. I'm like, your campaign's going to go well, and I don't suggest you pull the plug. And what's funny is I actually give all my clients scripts to use. So it really wasn't even a shocker that this happened. She just didn't read any of the emails or watch any of the videos, but as entrepreneurs, we take responsibility. So what I added is I'm texting every client now the onboarding video. And I'm like, if you haven't watched this, you need to watch this right now, because I can immediately tell when they don't watch it. So like, these things are happening and I don't understand. Like, well, I actually explained this to you.
Right. That's on them. I'm curious, seeing the back end of like kind of a bigger program, and you're talking to someone after they got sold something that, you hinted may be a little inflated expectation wise. What was the percent of like a refund rate, or was it not allowed to give refunds, or how does that go when reality hits the fan with a lot of these people,
Well, first of all, I'll say a bad sales guy in the bunch can definitely spike some refund rates in the future, right? It wasn't common, but every once in a while you'd get someone saying some squirrely shit for like a month, right? And that would always be a bummer. Now, it was my job to reduce that refund rate. Right. So I believe when I showed up, I forget how they gauged it, but I feel like the number was pretty high when I showed up. Okay.
What is like 5% high or 50%?
I'm having a hard time. The numbers 30% this was a long time ago now, but the numbers 30% are coming to mind, but I don't feel like it's 30%. I feel like it was more like 30% of the people that are asking for a refund are getting it, not 30% of the people that signed up are getting a refund.
It was a long time ago. I won't hold you to it. I know it was a long time ago.
But the point was, I remember personally dropping that number by 15 to 20% myself with my involvement. The reason for the creation of my welcome call never existed. I created it. So it's like, I take over this mess, for lack of a better term. There's some disgruntled people. There's no touch points. We literally called them touch points. So I created a system after I took this over, and the refund rate was high. I created the system that literally dropped it. And to this day, that company doesn't even give refunds because my system still exists, right? And what the system is it's the system that shows the client how supported they are and how happy they are. Before, the client wasn't that supported. So they could catch you having them slip through your cracks, right? So like, they're like, oh yeah, I can tell you've ignored me for a month, bam, refund, right? Because the whole system maybe wasn't managed properly. Well,
Now
I
there's
came
no
in.
excuse anymore. Like, hey, like the company is doing everything that they should be doing.
Well, right. And this is the beauty of like a great executive and a great leader, right? Like I literally showed up and I implemented things like student calls every 60 days. Every 60 days, we're calling everybody, period. How is everything? Are you happy? What questions can I answer for you right now? I literally created all the scripts. We gave it to everyone. And we're so in their world that we supported them to death in the end, you know? And so it was definitely interesting before that. Honestly, before my arrival, it was a free for all. It was the wild, wild west. I mean, people are getting closed, you know, for things, and, you know, everything's happening really fast and the fulfillment really isn't there, you know?
What do you
And
think
I'm
the
not,
price ranges are? You said there's like 7 tiers. What do you think the low end versus the high end of a typical like course or whatever program would
you know,
be?
this one was like 6 to 30,000, you know, is
So the low end is
where,
6 and then the high end is 30. And what do you
right.
think the
And
difference? What is the difference in terms of like the tiers you think that you would get in? And this is just even from my own knowledge of like, if I was going to structure a high ticket program, how does the value prop work there? What do you think the difference is?
you know, yeah, so there was some tangible differences. There was some that, you know, maybe weren't, but, you know, the first difference was time, 3, 6, 9 months.
How long
Okay.
you could be in it for?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
got
It
it.
was, yeah, bi-weekly coaching calls, 3, 6, 9 months. One of them was with a 2-day event. That event, one of the events that I was responsible for was throwing the 2-day events. They throw in the 2-day event on the big one, which they sold for 13,000. So then they did that as well. And then, you know, the low ones were really just, you know, teasers or tastes, you know, enough to get started, you know, get your foot in the door.
Gotcha.
And you know,
Maybe
I mean,
upsell if later down the road if needed or
yeah, you know, there wasn't really too much upselling,
oh, okay.
you know, that was going on, at least, you know, not necessarily that I remember. They didn't have too much after the initial thing, you
Gotcha,
know.
gotcha. Okay.
Um,
What do you think
so
the success rate of? I heard someone say, I was talking to Tag. You know Tag? He was on my
yeah.
podcast. I
Mhm.
like Tag. He's a nice guy. Lots to say. He had a lot to say. But he was saying that a lot of coaching programs, the success rate was between like 1 and 10%. And I cannot verify that. I have no idea.
Yeah, I feel like
Curious
that's
what
pretty
you think.
accurate. I feel like that's pretty
Yeah,
accurate, you know. I guess it depends on what success rate means, you know. Um,
fair.
you know, a lot of people came through that program
Make their
and a
money
lot of,
back. What percent of people you think made their money back? Would you say?
yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you know,
Hard to track, but
I would say best case scenario is probably 20%. But that would be like, I mean, I think that would be great for the most credible person, period. Right. You know, I
in
mean,
general, right.
that's pretty good. You know, take it from me. You know, I have a high ticket item. We sell franchises at Lead Mining. And, you know, I sold 3 of them and like 2 of them haven't done anything with it. So it's crazy. Like that's like not even a coaching. That's like, here's a business, you know?
Plug
And
and play,
so,
right.
yeah, right. It's like, you know, it's even simpler. So, you know, I think there's a couple things you learn too, you know, and one of the big epiphanies of a coaching company, especially one with integrity, is they're gonna give that money to somebody. You might as well be the best fucking coaching product out there, right? And I like that attitude. You know, that could be some corporate brainwash, but you know, it does seem pretty accurate, right? These people are going like they're determined in most cases. Like our sales, like I'm sure copywriting is if it's not that great, maybe it is. I don't know, but like, well, you know, they probably were following Grant Cardone and then decided not to get from him and then decided to get from us. Like they're not like I doubt it's their first decision, you know. So you know, I really like that attitude, and then you have to understand that so many people are quitters and they even just feel good about giving 15,000 to them. It's like a charity. It's like a mental work ethic charity. Yeah. I'm an investor. Yeah. I'm an investor. You are. Well, I paid someone $15,000 to say that, but I'm an investor, and I ran into all kinds of people. I ran into people who just talked about it, never did it, never closed a deal. Some of these students, they're paying to be in a club. I've seen it. And that's pretty mind blowing, right? Because here I am.
Expensive club.
Yeah, here I am making 60 G's a year, and this guy's paying a quarter of my salary to like be in this club. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me at the time, yeah. But people do crazy things with their money for crazy reasons. So, I really learned to stop judging. In some cases, the one judgment I have is, if you're trying to make money, I mean, why don't you find something better to do with your $30,000 than spend it, right? Like, just buy your first fucking property and fail through it. I mean, like, I don't know, but that's my style, right? I mean, that's why I'm an entrepreneur. I like failing. I like that stuff. So I'm no story.
What would you tell the average person? Let's say Jim, who's 23, he's out of college. He doesn't want to, he's tired of his like stupid cubicle job, or, didn't want to end up like his parents or whatever, and he wants to have financial freedom, and he's like watching some YouTube videos. And then he's like, oh, yeah, there's these 5 courses out there that range between $1,000 and $10,000, and let's say he has 20 grand that he got from, his great grandpa passed or whatever, and he wants to use it for this. What would you tell somebody who has, let's say $10,000, they have $10,000. What would you do with that money if you're trying to, let's say, make it into real estate? Yeah. Let's say become a wholesaler,
as a lead generator, I personally feel that education is theory until you have a lead. Okay. So my suggestion would be, one thing I like to tell people is, like, if you're about to give someone $15,000 to teach you something, what if someone gave you $15,000 to learn it on your own? And I think that we like so quickly forget that, put that money in a bank account, pay your damn self. Okay. What if you put money in a bank account and you're like, I'm going to lose this money if I don't learn this? Cause that is what's going to happen. You could pay someone, you can still not fucking learn it. You still don't have 15,000 fucking dollars. Okay. So my recommendation is to absorb all the free knowledge you can, and then talk to everybody, absolutely everyone. I don't care if it's cold calling or Uber driving, or, you get used to talking about real estate, gain those muscles. One of the reasons why I'm creating my course is it's literally just definitions. And by that, I mean, what's a pre-foreclosure list? I'll tell you. It's a list of someone who didn't pay their fucking mortgage, and now they're about to lose their house. And I know this seems like a great lead, but it's not, because they're not paying rent right now. They're not paying a mortgage right now. So if a pre-foreclosure sells their house to you, they literally have to go pay their mortgage somewhere else. People don't realize that shit. Like, that's why pre-foreclosures aren't the hottest leads. They're living for free. And I know they're about to lose their house, but they don't think that, or they would pay their bills. They think they're going to keep living in that house for free forever. And in some states, they actually can live in that house for free forever. Okay. So you literally buying their house fucks up their good situation. And like, I explain that, like in the course, for example, and I think that what newbies struggle with is vocabulary, as they don't understand what the words mean. And there's no teaching class. Remember, we were 6 once. I had a teacher giving me a word, telling me what it means, and then having me use it in context. When someone's new to real estate, my suggestion is focus on what the words mean and using them in context. And that way, when you're on the spot or you're saying something, you're like ready. You're like, oh, wow, I know what I'm talking about. Whoa. And then as soon as you know what you're talking about, my thing is massive amounts of lead gen, whatever that looks like, free, paid, whatever resonates with you the most. So one of the things I cover is, like, I cover all the forms of lead gen, and I explain that. And then I say, do whichever one resonates best with you, with your past. If you cold called for your last job, then cold call yourself. If you're good on social media, then use social media. If you're, do whatever resonates with you. And that being said, my biggest piece of advice would be, not to take on something that's going to snare your bandwidth more than it needs to. And the smallest thing you try to learn is going to slow you down 10 times more than you think it is. So really try to move very frictionless. Don't get stuck. Oh, a CRM. I got to get a CRM now.
Yeah, 3 weeks to find a CRM that's perfect with 15 bells and whistles. And
yeah. And you know what I tell people? If you don't have 10 leads, you don't need a CRM. Okay. Like until you're
probably.
there.
I mean,
Yeah.
Spreadsheets.
Yeah, like if you're not managing leads, then you don't need a management system, right? And so it's like I try to remind, but I say that not to insult them, but to calm them down. They watched a video with their idol on it, pitching their new CRM that they sell out of there. And now we offer a CRM too, but I don't want it in everyone's hands. I want it in people's hands that are going to use it and then that are ready for it. I don't just want you to pay me, because then 3 months later, you're going to ask me for a refund for the last 3 months because you forgot to cancel it, you know? And it's like, that's not going to work. So I'm a huge fan, and it's probably because of this experience, but I'm a huge fan of just providing people what they're looking for. But stay frictionless. Don't get too obsessed about some of the learning. Keep your learning in revenue generating activities. If you want to learn something, learn how to talk to sellers. If you want to learn something, learn how to negotiate. If you want to learn something, learn how to get it under contract. Screw everything else. That's my personal philosophy, because everything else is much easier to learn once you got those things down, you know?
Interesting. So if you were, let's say, a wholesaler getting started and you didn't have any money, they broke right out of college, no money, and someone put a gun to your head and said, Nick, you need to get a deal in 30 days or you're done. No money. What would you do?
That's a great question. You know, one answer wants to say, pick up the phone book and start dialing. But I don't think phone books exist anymore. Another answer wants to say, jump in an Uber, take it to the rich part of town, hang out at the restaurant bar, start talking to people, right? You know, find buyers, getting yourself out there. When you find yourself saying, I'm in real estate 10 times a day and you're new, you're going to be onto something. The same way I'm on this podcast and people watch this and then they go to my website and then they go there and then they go here. The same thing happens when you're out in public and you're doing this one person at a time. So my thing would be using a telephone. And that's because it's a very easy one-to-many model. Okay. I can call people very quickly. I can text people very quickly. I had a guy come over earlier and he was telling me that he's like literally looking up landowners and then manually texting them one by one. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. And he's like, Nick, I closed the deal after my first 35 text messages. And I was like, holy shit, this is working, you know? So, and then I think it's also a lot of the guerrilla tactics. It's not doing what everyone else is doing. Cold calling doesn't work everywhere in the nation. Text messaging doesn't work everywhere in the nation.
It's not guaranteed in 30 days either. If you have 30 days, that changes the game a little bit, right?
Right. Yeah, that's right. You know, and so like all these things, like they don't work everywhere. So my other thing would be always have your next decision on deck. Like, don't be like, damn, we put it all in the cold calling, man, and I'm lost now. No, dude, you should have your next pivot up, you know?
Gotcha. Okay. So I would like to dive into the agency a little bit. This is honestly just for me. I'm very curious, and you can share what you want or tell me to F off or if I ask you too many things. But like you said, you did like 100K gross revenue last month or something like that, right? Roughly.
In October. Yeah.
Which is, and you've been in business 7 years, right? 7 years with this agency?
6 years starting in January. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. My agency has been around 3 years. So you've been in the game twice as long as I have. Yeah. But how does that, let's say, I'm just trying to understand almost like I want to learn from you as an agency owner, what does the journey look like to get to that place? Because even for me, my goal isn't even to do 100K a month of revenue. I mean, that'd be great. I would love to get there. We're doing 30, I think, gross revenue wise, and our margins are like,
well, I think it's also important to respect your vehicle. Okay, I met this guy the other day doing $5 million like in sales a year. And I was like, how many packages would I have to sell to do $5 million? Right. So I don't really have a vehicle to do $5 million a year, if I'm being fair. I mean, this system might be able to do it, but my prices are too low.
So you think there's not enough people, there's not enough demand at your price point?
It's not that there's not enough people, but how many, like, if you deconstruct it, my average package, let's say, is 500 to 800 bucks, 5 million. What's that?
10,000.
10,000 people. That's a lot, right? That's like
200
it's
a
like
week.
nothing to shake a stick at. We divide that by 365. This is a great talk. This is a great talk. I love this. So we divide 10,000 by 365. No weekends, no days off, no holidays. I got to sell 27 customers a day, and that's wild, right? So like when you actually look at it, so, I think it's I'm a math nerd first and foremost. All right.
Same.
So for me, I'm very happy with where we're at. I'm very happy with keeping it, but incorporating things like franchising that I sell for $22,000, that changes. That's a whole week's worth of sales there now. Right.
And what's your goal with that? To sell like one a month with that? Or, I mean, that's,
I'm baby stepping that out. I've sold 5 of them, and then I wait, and then I mark it. If someone wants to buy it, I'll talk to them and probably sell another one. But I'm kind of like waiting to see like how the first 10, I want to do 10, let them loose
and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. I want, like I said, I want to do it right. I don't just want to put it in everyone's hands, but something like that helps a lot. This upcoming, complete, I don't even know what to call it yet, to be honest with you. Right now, I'm calling it the massive action package. Okay. Where I help you set up every system and then I give you lead gen on top of it. But that's going to help a lot. So like those things. And then, what else I'm trying to do is I'm thinking about starting to invest in real estate, right? When I start doing the math and I realize that this really isn't going to take me to 5 million a year. And if it is, I'm going to need all kinds of infrastructure to be able to be that big. And I'm probably gonna need a building at that point. And if I got a building, I don't want to fucking do it anymore anyways. Okay.
You're gonna get stressful. You're gonna get stressful. Yeah.
Exactly, Tim. And so I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's time to pivot towards real estate, right? I have a very comfortable life. I make a lot of money. We're very profitable, so, but it's like, do I want to get, and so this is where we have to ask ourselves, like, what our goals are. Do I want to get to $5 million a year? Do I want to pivot into a whole nother industry? Do I just want this to make me $600,000 a year to $900,000 a year net for the rest of my life? That's pretty good, dude. Like, it's like, but I met a guy yesterday who's worth $50 million. And let me tell you, he's at the top and he's getting older and he's like, what the fuck is life about, everybody? Because I can't figure out what it's about. I got all the fucking money in the world. Nothing pleases me anymore. And so, there is all these catch-22. So I like to live in the middle. I find myself to be a very practical person. But, with me, my number one traffic source is relationships, like, when you called or your partner called, I pay a lot of it. I used to really yeah, whatever, dude. Yeah, you're not going to help me. They'll call me, hey, I got an offer that will help you too, right? I used to hate those calls, and I'm sure you know which ones. Like, hey, I'm going to tell my friends about your service and you're going to give me a discount because 2 people might sign up underneath my recommendation, right? But now I've learned that when someone
your accents are so funny. I love it.
Thank you, bro. I know, like every day I get a customer that calls, he's like, would you offer a deal split? Would you deal split? Look, I hear this twice a day. I wouldn't create a business that charged people to do it if I wanted the deal split for free. Okay. In case anyone's watching. Okay. The UPS would not deliver mail. They would not charge for it and then decide to deliver it for free one day. It's not going to happen. Okay. My number one thing is relationships. Now, when people call with relationships, I realize it's my most rewarding thing. It's the least amount of refund, the least amount of chargebacks, the least amount of headaches, the best phone calls, the cheapest cost per lead for me. It's really great. And so for me, coming through out on all these relationships, and and I used to do a lot of marketing. I did Facebook ads out the wazoo for 2.5 years. That built up a lot of traction. And I didn't realize I did marketing at the perfect time when COVID hit. So when everyone else paused their dollars, I was like the only idiot running towards Facebook, throwing dollars at it. And, I was getting such insane results that they spoiled me so bad, I can't even do Facebook ads anymore.
Okay. So what does that mean? Is that like you were like, that's how a big way you grew your business in the last 2 years, I guess, right? So can you break that down for me? I'm curious. Prior. What was the lead cost conversion?
Dude, I was getting purchases for $27 each.
So it would cost you $27 to sell a $500 customer package. Yeah. That's a 20 times return on investment.
And then I had a retargeting ad. I had a retargeting ad that was getting me purchases for $8. I mean, bro, it's unheard of, dude. I can spend $200 now and see nothing. Okay.
So you think it was because of COVID in the market? It was like luck in a way at the time?
There's a bunch of things, right? Facebook's changed a lot since then. This was COVID. So was that 3 years ago now?
Before the iOS updates, probably.
That iOS updates came, COVID came. And they used to have something called a 28-day attribution period, which means that if someone saw or clicked on your ad for 28 days, it tracked their buy cycle. Now they don't do that. So now it's a 7-day window. So I also think that made my stats look way better because it tracked them for 28 days. But now it doesn't. I can tell there's a serious drop because even if 28 days goes by, I'm still not getting nearly as many purchases on these platforms. So it was definitely a perfect storm for me. I got really lucky. Now I also I've never spent over $120 a day.
Oh, okay. So you were spending three grand a month to make 50 grand a month. I mean, that's pretty good. But $3 grand to make 50 grand a month, basically, right?
It was, dude. It was crazy. Bro.
So is it recurring revenue? Like if someone buys a $500 package, are they one off, or how much time do they repeat?
So my biggest problem is that everything that we sell is single serving. Now that's my secret sauce and my biggest detriment. Right.
Makes sense. As with many businesses, a double-edged sword, right? Your best thing.
Right. People love using me because there's no commitments, but because there's no commitments, they stop using me very easily. Right. And I don't mind that really because I'm here for them when they come back, but it is a disservice to them. I had a guy spend $300, literally close on a $45,000 profit deal. He goes away for 3 months, comes back, hey man, I made $45,000. I said, great, dude. So are you going to buy like one of the bigger packages? No, I'm just going to give you another $300.
It doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't, if they do the math, I just understand why you wouldn't spend as much as possible in a way.
And
it's one deal, but
it's people like him that prove to me that contracts actually aren't bad for people like him. I had another guy, $305. Close a $35,000 deal, tells me 3 months. I said, well, where you been, bro? If you literally 10,000%ed your money, where have you been? And he's like, man, I paid off some debt and I'm just chilling out. And you know what I think the reality is, Tim? Most of these investors really are part-time. And I think a service like mine shows me that guy does come back once every 3 months. Spends $500, maybe gets a deal, maybe it waits again, spends $500. So it's like, I'm realizing that this industry is a lot more full of hobbyists and they're doing well. They're not closing deals, but they're just not churning 52 weeks a year like I am at lead mining, or you might be in your business. They're hobbyists, and real estate can pay well enough to make you a hobbyist. You close 4 deals a year at $30,000. Hey, you just made $120,000.
Yeah. I wonder why that is. I just think it's unstable. Like people, like we even have the same problem sometimes where we get clients who like brag about how great returns they're getting and then they quit. I'm like, I'm not upset that you quit, but it doesn't make sense if you're.
I don't understand the logic, right?
The logic doesn't. Yeah. Anyway, that doesn't make sense. Like, we could talk about that for hours, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Disgruntled agency owner problems, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Right.
So I know we're wrapping up here soon. I just have a couple more questions for you. I
Good.
appreciate your time here. It's been a very interesting conversation. In terms of cold calling, I don't have a ton of experience doing it. I interviewed another guy on here who used to have a cold calling agency, and at the time he stopped doing it. And he said his problem was when he was doing cold calling, that the lists would like burn up. They would run dry. Like the lists would just like, if you're hitting a list, you can only hit a same list so much. And they're just like, they would just like run out. And he just found this is what he told me was like one of the biggest reasons why it ended up like, he just couldn't get the results there. Like they would do well for the first 3 months. And then maybe afterwards they kind of like churn out. So I'm curious to your experience with that. How do you manage that type of dynamic with cold calling?
Well, with cold calling, there's a couple of approaches, but I always tell people have your next market on deck, right? And for a couple of reasons. One, your current one may stop working. Might just happen. I think, you being in digital ads, I run cold calling campaigns the way you optimize digital ad campaigns. I'm looking at the metrics. Hey, these numbers aren't great right now. Let's let this list cool down. Let's maybe move to another market. Do you have another market? And one big rule of thumb is if you ever hear a buyer say they're buying in a market you've never heard of, you should let your ears perk up. Lead gen is all about competition. If there's little competition, your leads are going to be through the roof. If there's high competition, you're not going to have a lot of leads. Like it's literally that simple.
Is that the game that you're playing, is trying to find the, blue ocean is the right word, but in a way you're trying to find areas and lists that other people aren't doing. Is that the secret to being successful with cold calling?
Yeah, it really is, because, it's the secret to being successful with single family houses cold calling. Land, honestly, anyone who calls me and says land, that's an easy win for us. Okay. Land does so well, it really kicks butt. So I highly recommend land for our lead generation strategies. But I joke and I say single family homes can be a bloodbath, and you really do have to you can tell how saturated a market is by how grumpy the sellers are. Some of these people are like, oh yeah, everything's great. They're really great. Have great leads. They close. Other people are like, who are you? You're the fifth person to say you want to buy my house. I don't trust anybody anymore. It's like they start like losing, their trust. And so, I recommend rural markets. I recommend absentee lists first. Then I recommend vacant and tax delinquents and probates. Okay.
Is that because those are on average, the least competitive lists?
Not necessarily least competitive, but they are the lists with the best opportunities for a good conversation is actually the best way to put it, right? So cold calling is more about good conversations than distressed sellers. If I call a list of divorced people, like that doesn't even sound fun. Okay. Like upset, angry, yelling, losing a house, losing half their life, lost their loved ones. That person's life is too fucked up to just, hey, Sally, how's your day coming? Yeah, it fucking sucks, dude. Fucking losing everything. Who the fuck is this? The hell you want being so nosy for? Right? Like it's so different. When their lives are too bad, you're not having a good conversation with them. And then I joke and people go, well, pre-foreclosures, they're the best. And these most distressed lists, they're the best. And I say, when was the last time you volunteered to have a conversation with the pissed off person? Like, it's not a good idea. It doesn't matter. It's not a good idea. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted a toy. And my dad was like, go ask your mother, but now's not a good time, Nick. Your mom's very upset right now. And I was like, shut up, Dad. You don't know shit. Mom, can I get this? Mom starts yelling and screaming at me. Oh, man. Dad was on point. That was my first lesson about timing. And so when you think of pre-foreclosures or more distressed lists for cold calling specifically, not in general, specifically, that timing to get them happy is much smaller than those other lists. Absentees are great. They at least have a second house, maybe more, right? vacants are great. That's definitely a second house. That vacant house is abandoned. That's what vacant means. It means it's marked vacant by the United States Post Office because they kept delivering mail to there and no one was emptying their mailbox or whatever indicators they use.
Are there
Okay?
vacant lists out there? Can you get a vacant list?
You
That
can get a
sounds-
vacant list, but it doesn't mean that it's accurate. And by that, I mean, most likely that vacant house was marked vacant within a recent window. If I were to guess, I'd say the last 2 years. So it doesn't mean it's still vacant. I actually used to sell vacant lists and I stopped because everyone called me up and they go, it's not vacant. And I was like, I did not drive by the house myself and then see if it was vacant. Like, this is a software. There's going to be errors, you know?
Right. Interesting. Okay. So, okay, I was going to ask the list that you're running. Okay. Oh yeah. So you say good conversation. Why do we want to have good conversations? How does that? What is it? What do you mean by good conversation, and why does that matter?
I mean, the person can't be like totally fucked, right? I mean, it's like, you know, I used to call pre-foreclosures and they were all like, they're trying to sell me marijuana. They're trying to sell me magazines, you know, like I literally, hey man, you want some weed? Like, I was like, do you live in my city? I don't think you do, dude. If you did, I would like some weed, but you don't even live here, bro. Like, you couldn't even sell me this if you wanted to. But so realizing that those other leads will take you down a rabbit hole, right? It's only when the person has a good life that they can even be honest with you. You know, someone's life fucking sucks. Like, you're not even going to get an authentic response at all. So I like the good conversations because, and that's why my whole strategy is good conversations, focus on the relationship, you know? And it's like, you're better off calling an absentee list and making friends with them and getting them to sell than calling a pre-foreclosure list and just hoping that, you know, something happens out of it. And using your relationship with the absentee, you know, I tell this story. I had a guy come over and buy an e-bike from me. I bought this really expensive e-bike. I don't recommend that for anyone. It's a waste of my fucking money. But so then I'm going to sell it. Okay. And I was going to sell it for $3,000. Well, this guy shows up with his nephew, and not his little nephew. He was an adult. But they talked to me for 15 minutes outside. And I found out he had another e-bike at the house, just a much lower model. And I really wanted an e-bike. I just didn't want a $5,000 one anymore. So the guy's over for 15 minutes. I'm like, I'll tell you what, bro. You bring your bike over and just give me $1,000 and we're good. And he was about to give me $3,000 cash and then go have to sell his bike and go through all this hoopla. He's like, man, are you serious, dude? And I was like, yeah, bro. You know, honestly, I just want this fucking thing out of here. And if you put some cash in my pocket, and I get an e-bike and replace, like, fuck, did I just win, right? I just recouped my dumb investment in a sense. And I was like, so, you know, we're good. And, you know, I remind people all the time, you know, people, you only get the deal when they like you. No one's giving you 50% off on their house if they don't like you. And I think that we constantly skim over that. And so it's easier to get them to like you when they're in a good place, when they are mentally sound, when they don't have a kid screaming or a bill or whatever. And the other thing is, the more distressed list, their cell phones are getting turned off, right? Well, you're using the cell phone to call them. So if they're like, I always joke and say, if they've abandoned the house, they've abandoned a couple cell phone bills. So it's going to be harder to also get those people on the phone. You know, if I've abandoned my mortgage, it's my place to live, then I'm definitely not paying Verizon $130 a month either.
That's a fair point. So when you say build relationships with people, to me, my first thought is long-term follow-up, because people, like, there's not often, hey, I just met you, but I really like you. I'll stay in my home today. It's like, I like you. I'll talk to you next month, and then we'll see how I feel, and I'll talk to you the month after that. And then it ends up being a long-term game. Would that be an accurate assumption to make?
Yeah. So the good news is it's all of it, but you have to be good at the long-term game, you know. Now, it's also about great first impressions. if you can get in there quickly and get them to like you and build rapport and go visit the house. I have this one guy who says, Nick, I talk about whatever they want until they like me. And then I talk about whatever I want. That's a great strategy. He says, if they want to sell their house or they want to rent it and I want to buy it, then I'm going to talk about renting it. And then I'm going to go and see the house and even act like a renter. And then before I leave, I'm going to say, well, have you ever considered selling before? And so, I think it's just having like a real big relationship mind, but not being scared of the 3-month lead. The good news is these leads will tell you. I joke, one of my teachings is move at their pace, right? So if you're sprinting and they're crawling, you're going to lose them. But if you're sprinting and they're crawling, I think I said it right. But so if they are sprinting, you're going to be the first person. No, you're not going to be in the dark. If they're in a rush to sell their house, you're going to know. So don't move at this fast pace and potentially scare them. Move at their pace. So that way okay, great. Hey, look, I'm not in the biggest rush. Let me know if anything changes. I'd love to give you 160. Oh, that won't work. Right. Well, hey, look, if a tree falls on your house and that will work, you let me know. Okay. The plumbing backs up. You really have to lead with the relationship. Like, guys, look, I'm not going anywhere. Okay. Your house isn't going anywhere, it sounds like, but when it does go somewhere, I want it to go over here. Okay. So do me a favor and make sure that I'm the first person you do call if you do decide to sell your house. You know what I mean? It's literally one at a time Google ads.
Yeah, no, I get that. So you're a numbers guy. So what would be a good rule of thumb follow-up system? What's the frequency? How many touches over how long of a period of time?
So what we see, I'll give you our stats on our site. So what we see is 1 in 3 leads that we generate are open to an offer.
Okay.
Okay. And then my clients are reporting about 1 in 12 to 18 are closing. All right. Which that's pretty awesome. Now that's specifically cold calling. Okay. Now,
is that across all lists? That seems almost too good, to be honest. That seems I expect it to be closer to like 1 in 40 or 1 in 50. The 1 in 18 seems really good.
Those numbers are, and it all depends, right? So there's a lot of back end, but I can tell you that if you have, so we had a brand new client get 36 leads on a campaign, which is huge. She closed 3 deals on that, on 36 leads, brand new, not even systems, no CRM, now she is in Muncie, Indiana. Okay. I had another client.
Which you're saying that, which means it's a more rural area. So it's easier potentially to get a deal there.
It's a couple-edged sword, but yes, definitely easier to get a deal there. And the deals are lower. The property, right. First property, the first Saturday she was with us, she got a phone call back and it was a lead. And she'd get it under contract on Saturday. She sold it that Friday. Her first deal was $3,000. And she was with me for like 5 days. And she was like, holy shit, that was awesome, right? Another woman got 8 leads, also closed the deal. So, but it is a numbers game. And early deals can sometimes confuse people.
Well, so would you say then, because to me, I'm like, in that case with that person in Indiana, like she may be doing really well in the beginning, but 9 months from now, maybe hard to get deals because it's such a small population. The lists run out. She basically milked them all for all they could in the first 3 to 6 months.
Right. Yeah. And I had a guy do that with us in Arkansas. We did the small town in Arkansas. We ran a campaign. He closed 3 deals. There was no records left for us to even pull, right? Because it was Arkansas. So it was literally just this one campaign, but we like crushed it. And then he got super excited, but the same thing happened, right? That's like, we couldn't really pivot in that market. So we have a couple options.
Mail it a year later? Yeah. Well, anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would let it cool for 2 months as one piece of advice. The other thing is we can pivot to owner occupieds, right? If we're low on population, there's tons of owner occupieds out there, much lower lead flow, much harder to talk to someone about selling a home that they live in, a lot more decision-making on the phone. Right? Like, oh no, where are we going to go? Like when it's their second home, and the other perk of absentees or vacants or tax delinquent, those second home problems is they don't have to worry about what they're doing. And I think that is probably that's an indicator, I think, of someone wanting to sell, right? Like they don't have to pack or move or think, or they're just going to collect a check or whatever the hell they're going to do. I think that's quite a qualifier, you know? But what was the question?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, what do you do with the lady, let's say we're in Indiana, who 3 months?
Oh, it's running low.
You're running low. Like what is that it? Like, hey, mail the list a year from now, or?
Well, yeah. So what I tell her is, and the cool thing is everything's 100% virtual. And that's why my saying is have your next marketing on deck or your next market on deck, right? And it's like, where are we going to go next? Have you been scoping out other rural markets, or are there other places around Muncie like Muncie, right? And so it really becomes an experimentation, but the truth is all marketing, I think you can agree, right? All marketing isn't. They go, Nick, what's going to happen? I go, well, here's our average numbers, but we don't know unless we start.
That's the name of the game. If it was a guarantee, everyone would have, everyone be millionaires, right?
Yeah, exactly. I would be doing this for myself if there was a guarantee, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, backtrack to like, what is the follow-up? And then we'll wrap it up. What is the follow-up frequency? You're saying, so you say people close 1 in 10 or 1 in 18, 1 in 20, I think is really good. But anyway, yeah, what do you recommend people as their kind of follow-up frequency and cadence?
I think it's, so first of all, you get a lead, you call them within 15 to 30 minutes, max, right? So first is speed, next is intent. Well, they said they want to sell in 3 months. Well, call them next month. And then call them a month after that. Hey, just wanted to touch you and come up with creative scripts. Reference your notes. Hey, how's the house doing? You guys doing good over there? All right, so I remember last time you mentioned Gary might get transferred to New York. How's that going? Right? Okay, well, great. Well, look, let me know. I'm here to help. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Really, you have to what you have to do is you have to change from follow-up, honestly, to customer service. Right? I think that's probably a powerful
I like that
distinction.
I like that.
It's not like, hey, I got a $50,000 check here with your name on it. Are you, what are you wearing? Right? It's like.
So how long are those phone calls, you think, on average? Because if I have a list of 500 people and I'm doing follow-up calls, I'm like, man, it's taking up a lot of time. How long do you think someone should expect to be on the phone for these customer service calls?
I think they're quick, man. Honestly, my calls for my business, if someone calls my cell phone, if we're on the phone for 12 minutes, that's a long time, honestly, on a phone call, so I tell everyone this: every lead is worth 2 to 3 minutes of your time, and you're going to know everything you need to know in the first 2 to 3 minutes of that call. They're going to cuss you out. They're going to be nice. They're going to have warm tones. You're going to turn them around, whatever it is. And the other thing is stop letting these people's bullshit slow you down. Like, that's a message to my clients, not to you. And that's like, someone says, oh, well, they said 1.5 million. Well, they still spoke to us for 20 minutes. They're not completely full of shit. They are testing you right now. The other day, literally yesterday, I asked that guy who was worth $50 million at the mastermind. He said he was looking for the meaning of life, right? And I said, sounds like you need to mentor me to get to where you are. I was like, I think that would really give you purpose. I said that to him.
I love that.
I did. And then
you should do it for free too, because that's make it really fulfilling. Prove to yourself that it's not for the money.
Yeah, give back, pro bono. And he comes up to me afterward and he says, I just met this guy that day for the first time. And he says, hey man, so I'm going to ski week in Japan and my buddy just canceled on me. You want to come? And I was like, he is fucking testing me. Hey bro, first hangout, Japan in the mountains. See you there? You want me to mentor you? Let's go. Right? And that's exactly what sellers are doing to our clients. All right? They're saying some bullshit and the client's like, oh, no, they are a lead, dude. Like, you are refusing to see the optimism and what's happening here. And because of that, you're having an adverse response. And then if you have that adverse response and you call them up and now you think they're wasting your time, you're going to have a shitty fucking tone with them.
Right.
So it's like, we don't even realize how much we're in control of these other people's energy. That's really the problem. We are in full control. I told you, I cold call 300 to 600 people a day for 3 months. I think the biggest thing that people can probably walk away with is you have the words to open up someone's heart. Are you going to find those words? And the reality is, most of these people don't give a shit enough about finding those words. But there's something you can say. I used to have people my first cold calling expedition was in New York City in the fucking Bronx. Okay. They would cuss me out and I wouldn't cuss them out back, but I would return the energy and they would start laughing and they would, okay, yeah. So what were you calling about again, man? Like, dude, people are literally challenging you, not so you fail, so you succeed. So like, don't fucking take their bullshit answers to heart. Well, you know what? Yeah, dude, like, let me come up with a great example. Sometimes we have to give in to like what's happening to really get something. So a small example that's probably irrelevant. My girlfriend and I are arguing because we ran out of toothpaste. Okay. Or she's arguing. I'm like, what the hell? And I want to fight back because I'm getting yelled at over toothpaste. Right. So I'm like about to get upset. All right. But you know what I did, Tim? I got in my car and I drove to CVS and I just bought some fucking toothpaste. Okay. And that was it. That was it. I came home, big hug. I'm a hero. 5 minutes in the car, dude. 5 minutes in the car, crisis averted. And I don't mean crisis for her. I mean crisis for us. It almost ruined our day. We start fighting, it's going to fuck shit up. Well, your attitude with sellers is extremely similar. If you're like, oh, this bitch again, okay, then you are going to show.
This bitch again. That's funny.
Yeah, right. Dude,
Yeah.
it's so true. Yeah. And I imagine other people at home, they're thinking the exact same thing. Oh, I already know this person's going to be difficult. Okay, here we go. And it's like, if you think that, it will come true, and that's where the customer service comes in. You really have to look, I'm not here to prey on you or your property. I'm here to help you out of a situation. If you're not ready to be helped yet, I completely understand. I just want to get first dibs on this bad boy. Okay. So take down my direct line. Let me know if you need anything. And then honestly, call them back 2 weeks to a month. And I'll share this when we talk about frequency. If someone says yes and then ghosts you, you call that son of a bitch every day until you get them on the phone and they say no, or they sell you their house.
Every day. What if they don't pick up? Like a week, 2 weeks? How long?
Bro, well, you're going to get another story. So my first contract that I thought was going to close was a property in New Jersey. And the guy said, I'll sell you this property for $45,000. And then he didn't answer the phone for 3 weeks. I called him every day. In the end, it became a joke. Oh, let's call Joe again.
You call it every day for 21 days.
Every day at minimum every day. And in the end, it was twice a day because it just became a fucking joke. Okay. And then Joe answers. I kid you not. Joe answers. Every time we had free time, I'm like, let's just call Joe again. Right. Joe answers.
Been in shock when he picked up. You've been like,
dude, I thought he was going to chew my ass so bad. I had called this guy probably 30 times by now. And he picked up and he goes, Nick, I want to thank you so much for following up with me. My son was in a bad car accident. I'm in the hospital right now. I'm dealing with his stuff. You've been persistent. I'm taking you guys seriously. Give me 2 weeks, okay? And we're going to get this thing moving. All right? Blah, 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 blah. And Joe did sign the contract. So when the deal didn't close, it wasn't because of Joe or anything like that. ended up being in a flood zone in New Jersey where they already have like a 4% tax, and the house would have had to been torn down and rebuilt. It was like under old code. It was like, but we still got the contract signed. And the reality is these people need us. They need us to follow up. There's a reason why they're taking 50 cents on the dollar, because we're making it easy for them. We're providing a service of ease. We're like a concierge service, and our fee doesn't exist. We just pay less for the house, So I think when we reshift our brains into realizing like what we're actually doing out there, we can do it better. You're just providing a service and provide it because they're in the weeds. They have problems, and you're only going to get the deal if they have a problem that you can solve. And that problem is, I don't know how to sell this fucking house because it has so many fucking problems. I don't want to get them fixed before I sell it. So I'm going to sell it to you minus the cost of all those fucking problems, even the emotional cost of them. And then that's where the price break comes in at.
So how long then, let's say you're calling somebody let's say you're following up with someone every month. How long do you do it? You do it indefinitely until they tell you to F off or sign the contract? Is that for a year? I mean,
in my case, dude, if someone, the answer is it depends on your automation systems. If you're like doing it manually, it's going to get extraneous and you're going to have a cap. But if you've got an automated text message that goes out once a month and maybe an RVM that drips in there, and it's easy for you, I say do it till they say no. I'm not a big fan of giving up on leads. And you know what else I do? What else I'd recommend? Fuck the follow-up. Every 3 months, cold call your entire list. I have a client who sends me all of his dead leads every 3 months. And his results are insane because he already knows what they wanted to sell. So he just follows back, and I said, dude, I even asked him, what the hell's going on? Why are you getting so, like, I want to tell my other clients his secret, right? Well, his secret is, Nick, these are my dead leads. And, and I like that strategy too. Just throw them right back in the recycle bunch, and that way maybe you can forego some of the uber intense systems or, building out long drip campaigns.
So he just follows up with his leads, all of his dead leads every 3 months. And you're saying it works well for him to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha,
and it's I'm a big fan of easy and what works. I'm not the guy who says build out an ultra complex system. I'm the guy that builds out a really simple system that the consumer feels like is ultra complex, right? Is really what I like to do.
So this is great. I've learned a lot about cold calling. Even though I don't plan on cold calling myself, it just helps me get a good understanding. And I am a wholesaler as well. I do business, and maybe I should consider throwing my dead leads into a system like this. So if people want to, get more information about you, plug away, what's your business? Where should people talk to you at?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are leadminingpros.com. I after years, I finally named the business.com. Like what a great solution that is. But, you can check us out there. We offer American callers. We offer foreign callers. We've got packages that start as low as $300, and they literally step up all the way to 6,000. So you can find something that works for your budget and in your area and everything. So I definitely would take a look and see what works best. My phone number is actually on the website. I know it's crazy. It's my actual cell phone. I'm the only one that answers. And I know when you call me and I answer, you're going to go, holy shit, you really do answer your phone. Everyone, like, no one believes me. But you're damn right I do. We're very profitable, and I'm here for you. Like all that shit I said about customer service, I put my money where my mouth is. I'm very available. Every client gets an opportunity to meet with me weekly on a one-on-one basis to talk about whatever they want, their campaigns, their acquisition process, anything. So if you're a client of ours, you can get me up to once a week, completely included in the price. So definitely, if you're looking for some guidance, or if you're looking for some expertise and you're looking for no contracts, no commitments, and no hidden fees, we're definitely a great choice to be.
If I was someone listening, when I called you on the phone, I would record that call and listen to how you talk to me. And I'd probably learn from that conversation because you've talked to a lot of people and you know what you're doing. So I think even just that'd be a good learning opportunity to see how Nick would talk to you on the phone as a business owner in the
Well,
sales
you know,
process.
and thank you for saying that. And you're exactly right. And just so you know, I reference the call I'm on in my trainings. I say, do you see how I'm not rushing you off the phone? Do you see how I'm not, I don't have dollar. Are you buying or what? Are you going to
Right.
buy a product or what? Like, I don't talk to my customers like that. So you
Right.
shouldn't say to your customer, are you going to take my offer or what? Right? We are building a relationship. You know what I learned, Tim? That almost once a week, someone calls me and says, hey, we spoke 3 months ago. Hey, we spoke 3 months ago. The trick about real amazing customer service is you don't have to follow up. They can't wait to give you your business. And I think the one thing I do right in this world, and it's really because of my restaurant career, and it's amazing customer service. And what it is when they do decide, they don't even have anyone else that they know of, let alone that they like nearly as much as you. They've been dying for a chance to give you their business. I have customers call me like, Nick, it's like talking to an old friend when I call you. And that's because when I answer, I'm peace, I'm calm, I'm cool. I swear, I'm not like, I tell the truth, I'm very honest. And I agree with you, Tim. Take our call and you can totally study it and you can literally mimic your whole follow-up strategy around it. And it will change the way your business runs.
Yeah, I think I understand you now, Nick. I think you're a customer service guy. You've taken what you learned in the restaurant business, applied it to the real estate education company, probably took some lessons there. I
Yeah.
think really you're a customer service business, with the hat of a cold calling agency on, but really you're a customer service business. I
No,
like that.
I like that you said that because it's like, I feel like what I serve, no matter what we do, I feel like if I sold balloons or something, we would do it really well. And that is another great lesson for everyone. If you do one thing, this is the one thing, in my honest opinion, if you could only do customer service right, you're doing it right. If customers walk away feeling serviced, you've won. Even if people don't get a deal, and their averages are lined up and I answer the phone every time they call and you say, and like, dude, Nick was awesome. I mean, the cold calling didn't work for us, but Nick was awesome. Right. And that is my second favorite recommendation. My first is it all worked and it was awesome. But, and to really give them something to look forward to, man. So thank you so much for saying that.
No, yeah, I appreciate it. And last question I have for you. What's the best business model? Is it a wholesaler, an agency owner, or a real estate education company? Which one?
It's a real estate education company. I met this guy yesterday at my mastermind. He's only doing podcast marketing and he made $250,000 already selling. I mean, he is selling one-on-one with himself and he does have a land business, but man, education's cool. You know what I've created? I mean, it's intense. I mean, I'm good at managing it. I've mastered it, but I couldn't duplicate it and give it to you. That's why I created franchising, because I can't duplicate it. I can plug into your business and fulfill for you. And that's what our franchise is. It's like a fulfillment franchise, but it is hard to find 15 cold callers that are willing to work every day and all these VAs that will show up every day. I look back and I can't even believe I created this business. And it's definitely difficult. But however, now that you do something like this forever, here's the other reality. Just like I ran restaurants for low wages and then this came out of that. What comes if I took that big of a level up out of restaurants, then how big of a level up do I take after 13 years of doing this, right? So I think that's another super important lesson is the past that's left traveled that we're muscling through. So some of you that are investors going, fuck, he just said coaching is more money, whatever. That doesn't mean that. It means that the path that you're currently on, if it's harder to get through, that the rewards are going to be even sweeter. You're going to learn everything that you're doing now. And then when you become an educator, if that's what you decide, you're going to learn how to overcome all this bullshit. And then that's going to be a part of your education. You're going to be ninja at overcoming obstacles. And so, we're all definitely on this journey. I wouldn't trade mine for anything in the world. Despite that, I think the educators got it the best.
I like that. Are we going to see you pivot to a big education company in the future here? Yeah.
If I did, it will be, honestly, I even call myself now, I'm an education company posing as a lead generation company. I've actually been saying that for a while, and it's because of where my heart is. My heart is ensuring you're educated so you can ensure you do well with it. So if I did do that, it would be like a expensive education program that came with like $5,000 to $10,000 worth of lead gen, which is actually what I'm creating. Is right now what I'm working on is going to be $15,000, and it's going to come with $5,000 worth of lead gen in it. Right. So it's not going to be comparable to any course out there, which is why I'm calling it massive action, because after we learn everything, we're taking massive action. So if it got any bigger than that, it would really just include a lot of leads, and that would just make it more of a no-brainer for people. Because I think as soon as they realize, why would I pay this guy $30,000 and not get leads when this guy is $15,000 and I literally get exclusive leads, and not the kind of leads that some of these guys take just absentee lists and mail them out to everyone. Here's your leads that you get talked to, spoken to, executed on, leads that they spoke to. So if I did get bigger, there'd be so much value around that it wouldn't look like an education offer.
It looked like gym launch. And REI launch, bro. REI launch. I think it's a better name than massive
action
plan.
I like that.
REI launch.
I'm stealing it. I haven't officially named it yet, so I definitely need that. And then Alex Hormozy will hopefully buy my ass.
Yeah, then he'll buy your company, right? Exactly. That's what he's doing. I think he takes like crazy high equity of companies. He takes like 50% or something.
Really?
Yeah. So that's another conversation for another day. But is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to share before we wrap it up here?
No, I didn't really come with a lot, other than everything I did share, but no, I feel great. I'm thankful to be here. I'm glad you have me. I love doing stuff like this and even sharing these stories. The podcasts are great because someone always asks the question differently. I give a different answer. So it's really cool. I appreciate, this was a different path I haven't been taken down before. So I appreciate the introspective questions, and we really covered some good stuff. Like, this is probably going to go in my course that I'm making. It's like this, and I was filming it recently, so I'm really jazzed up on info and teachings right now. But
that's great.
But there were some cool nuggets in here. I appreciate you extracting those out of me.
That's what I do, man. I go deep on things and I pull things out of people they don't expect. So that's why I started a podcast. So thanks again, Nick. I'm sure I'll have you on again one day. I'm looking forward to everything. I'm rooting for you. And yeah, hopefully we can do some business together too, man. So thanks again for coming on today.
You got it, brother. I'll see you.
See you.